I'm not interested. I mean, I am interested in the rhetorical strategies, right? I like just the sound, and obviously the content is amazing, right? To couple it with the fact that the content is amazing just makes this absolutely, I agree, one of the best speeches ever given, right? I'd probably put it higher on the list, but it's absolutely out of control. What I'm going to do is I'm not going to talk about the rhetorical stuff. I'm going to talk about the conceptual, right? And we're going to look at the logic, pre-logic, right? We're going to look at the structure, using a lot of the different strategies that we learned. So actually, I'm going to split this in half, and I'm going to map this out gradually. So what I did is I went through and not necessarily line for line, but section by section. This is where interpretation comes in. What you label one might not be what I label one, and on and on and on. It's not as serious as trying to formalize sort of the structure, the syntactic structure of, you know, a modal logic argument or a predicate logic argument. It's not that, right? What it is, it's you getting a visual depiction using the four forms of diagramming various arguments, divergent arguments and so on, parallel arguments, finding those in this argument and then seeing what it looks like. So, number one, right? Number one is this nation was founded by men of many nations and backgrounds. So I'll put one. I'm not going to write that down. This nation, the United States of America, was founded by many men of many nations and backgrounds. Diversity. Number two, it was founded on the principle that all men are created equal. Okay? It was founded on the principle that all men were created equal, and this actual nation was built by lots of different people. Number three, the rights of every man are diminished when the rights of one man the rights of every man are diminished when the rights of one man, I would assume that's supposed to be is, when the rights of one man are threatened, right? Threatening the lives of the rights of one man undermines the structure of all of us. Why? Because this nation was built by everybody, right? So to forget that this nation was built by everybody and to challenge or to oppress the rights of one man cripples the integrity of the nation as such, is what's being said. I mean, just a profoundly genius point, but he says it way more poetically than I do. I tend to get really sort of logically boring in my writing. And my writing has a similar structure, but I'm a bit of a robot. I mean, you can tell by the tattoos, my gears. It's chick, 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 chick. That's how my writing goes. My writing is like that. I like writing like that, and I love reading stuff like that because I can follow it. He takes this to another level because he maintains that logical rigor, but he finesses it so just amazingly, right? Number four, and when Americans are sent to Vietnam, we do not ask for whites only. All of these points support the same concept, right? All of these, you can see that this is so we have 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4. Again, this is just my particular map, right? I think it's a great map. I love it. I like his speech even more now that I've mapped it, right? At least just this tiny little paragraph. It's a much larger speech. You can imagine what the whole speech would look like. But think about the ideas, the relationship between these four ideas. It's undeniable, right? The nation was founded by men of many different backgrounds. It was founded the principle that we're all equal. The rights of every man are diminished if you attack the rights of any one man. And when we go to war and people are dying for this country, we're not just asking whites. We're asking everybody, right? So you can see the relationship between that. Now we arrive at a conclusion, right? Now we arrive at a conclusion. We take these arguments, and then what did I do? Hold on, let me get my. Sorry, excuse me. I want to show you specifically how we get to this point. We take. I want to show you exactly how this works. We take, and I'm on page 11 now, so you can see it. We take all of those arguments and we recognize that premise 1, 2, 3, and 4 are used to support premise 5. It's undeniable, right? Those points that I just stated, premise 1 through 4, are used to support the conclusion, right? It ought be possible, therefore, for an American of any color to attend any public institution they select without having to be backed up by troops. Why? Because our nation was built on diversity. Why? Because when we go to war, it's not just whites going, it's blacks going as well. It was founded on the principle of equality. So all that is true, then it should be the case that Americans of any color should be able to attend public institutions, right? This follows from that, undeniable. What I really like about what he did was he introduces it ought, it ought, it ought, it ought, therefore, it ought, therefore, it ought, it ought, it ought. That it ought to be possible. There's a rhetorical name for that. I don't remember, my wife would kill me, but I forget the rhetorical name for that because I don't teach it. I look at the logic. But what I recognize now that I know, now I'm going to give you a secret, right? I very rarely give out my secrets because this is what makes people really powerful at analysis. So I'm sharing a little bit of the real power is that when you start to hear, and I need to find the name of that rhetorical device where you repeat a phrase like, it ought to be possible that, it ought to be possible that, it ought, after drawing a conclusion, it ought to be possible that, based on this happens, right? So regardless of what's here, you recognize that I'm applying new conclusions to the same premise. I'm deriving new conclusions each time from the same four premises, right? So for me, we use exactly the same four premises then. 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4. Again, remember, this is just my interpretation to derive 6, right? So because of those four things that I've listed above, it ought to be possible for American consumers of any color to receive equal service in places of public accommodation. That's different from that. But it comes from exactly the same four premises, right? I saw this, I was like, I gotta bite it. I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to bite JFK's speech, man, because the structure of this speech is out of control. It's out of control. For me personally, it's one of the best speeches I've ever seen in my life, personally, right? This is not to go against American rhetoric and all the big scholars and everybody else, but for me personally, this format is out of control. He uses the same four premises, he derives the first point, which is, it ought to be possible, therefore, number 5, for Americans, students of any color to attend public institutions they select without having to be backed up by troops. Based on the same four premises, new conclusion, it ought to be possible for American consumers of any color to receive equal services in places of public accommodation. Based on the same premises, 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4, he arrives at yet another conclusion, right? It ought to be, and then the ring, it's just like there's so much going on in this, it's amazing. It ought to be possible for American citizens, number 7, of any color to register and to vote in a free election without interference or fear of reprisal. 7. It ought to be possible, right? Another one, right? 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4, right? We get to another conclusion, right? It ought to, number 8, it ought to be possible, in short, for every American to enjoy the privileges of being American without regard to race or his color. Like, okay, what's not to love about that, right? What's not to love about that? Okay, so I stop at that level. So far, there's no connection here with that, right? What we see, however, because I know you guys are jumping ahead and looking, is that we create a serial argument at this point, right? The conclusion for one of the arguments becomes the antecedent, the antecedent, the beginning of another argument, right? So we're going to take this point and this conclusion, these conclusions collectively, and this is where it gets really crazy, right? Which is something I like, becomes the antecedent for another argument, but I don't want to jump ahead just yet, so let's go in order. Let's read number 9. We're going to read 9 through 12, right? So number 9, this is pretty long, but, well, actually, I'm not going to read 9 because it's long. You guys read number 9, right? Here are the disadvantages that African Americans have. A lot of disadvantages, right? Structural violence to the hilt. Okay, number 10. Difficulties over segregation and discrimination exist in every city, right? This structural violence is systemic, is the argument in number 10. Number 10 is reinforcing 9. It's not a different argument, it's just reinforcing the point, right? Here's holistically what's happening, right? African Americans face 1/3 incarceration, blah, 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 right? All the problems that they face. Number 10, difficulties over segregation and discrimination exist in every city, in every state of the Union,